with that, we'll bring on our guy Kyle Fetterly. We'll hit lax, Kyle. I got to know this though. Are you cool with your Yankees allowing beards? Where does the world's #1 Yankees fan stand on the important question of the day?
See, let me tell you something, Brian. I am so old. I remember when Steinbrenner took over the team in '74. That he came in. He said at spring training, he goes, "Now tomorrow, beards and mustaches are gone." And so's the long hair. Chop it up over the years. So the boss is rolling over in his grave right now.
All right. So you're returning to the days of your youth here, where the Yankees will be bearded. Now I can be a Yankee, Kyle. As much I can join the team now. If they dole out $100 million contract, I'll go sit on the bench. We can make that happen. All right.
Yeah, I know. I had to talk my brother off the chair last night because they re-upped Boone and they did the beard thing, and he was losing his mind. So we're good. We're good.
Okay. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. We're what are we, 6 weeks out or so from opening day. We'll see how things sort out by then. All right. Let's go back to last Saturday. You're down in College Park for this Maryland game. Maryland. They do their John Tillman magic, and 11-7 is the final score. Are you saying, okay, one off? Are you any big picture worries out of that game? Is it just early February? What do you take out of that game?
My couple takeaways, Brian, were first of all, the sky isn't falling. It's the #2 team versus the #4 team. Okay, so guess what? Somebody's going to lose. And both great teams. It was a great game until about the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter when they took a 2-goal lead, and then they got one right after that to go up 3. Now, the thing that concerned me a little bit, I thought, was, and I said this on air, that 7.5 minutes roughly to go in the game, you're down 3, and the body language was like hunched over, walking out to their position. I was like, dude, you're only down 3. So that's something, and believe me, the kids already addressed that. You keep fighting. It's a 60-minute game. It's the old cliche. Coaches always say that. It's a 60-minute game. But that's what you got to do. You got to fight right for the entire 60 minutes. And honestly, if you don't, you're disrespecting this game. This game is about speed, fast, power. I mean, it's got it all. Speed, power, finesse, the whole 9 yards. But you got to play it for 60 minutes, and you got to play hard. So I was a little taken away. But I think we're just fine. Hey, listen. We ran into one of the best goalies in the country, and I think he got into our shooter's head. That would be my guess, because we couldn't hit water if we fell out of a boat. It was so bad last Saturday. I mean, what were we, 7 for 48 shooting? I mean, that ain't going to get it done. And he had about 18 saves. I know the stat sheet said 12, but I had 5 alone, and I keep that stat in the fourth quarter where they only had 1. So on the stat sheet. But he had about 18 saves, and he's great. He's in his 6th year. Jimmy McCool for Syracuse was great. Both defenses were great. The face-offs was a real battle. And honestly, the one thing that they have, I think, that Syracuse now has to work on is they are extremely patient. They have no problem running the shot clock out and throwing the ball into the corner and substituting. They wait for the perfect open shot, and you know what? Usually they make it count too.
I look at that game, and on the one hand, you're right. It's one game in February, right? Like it doesn't really matter in the big picture. Like the loss, it's not going to kill you in any way, and you got 8 million more chances against the top 10 coming up this year. The other hand, is we know Syracuse can win a game 20-19. In the playoffs, you need to do that, right? But you also need to be able to probably win a 10-9 game at some point. Do you think this Syracuse team is capable of doing that? Because obviously that is probably the trickier of the 2 ways to win for them right now.
Well, you know what, Brian? Honestly, they're going to have to learn to play that game, because if I'm coaching against Syracuse, the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play a lot of zone, and I'm going to play it slow. I'm not going to play. Syracuse's greatest asset, besides athleticism and speed, is its depth. Syracuse is very, very deep at pretty much every position. So I don't think you want to get into a track meet with Syracuse. Hey, I remember we had to play Princeton way back in the day, and Princeton had this fast team up and down, and John Desko said, we ain't playing that way. And even though that was our style, he said, because we don't have the depth that Princeton had, and we ended up winning 9-8. It was a slow, take your time type of game. So I mean, I've seen it. Are we capable of doing it? Absolutely, we're capable of doing it. But you can't get frustrated. And the other thing too is, when you're shooting, you can't shoot. You got to change the playing level of your shot. You can't keep going high to high or low to low. You got to go off stick side. The goalie's great. That's fine. But you got to challenge him on all four corners of that net, and change the level of your shot. So, the bottom line was we weren't seeing that with Syracuse. They kept trying to blow it by his ear instead of going off stick side low or off his hip or whatever. Stuff like that. And we were even commenting on that they're not adjusting. Syracuse isn't adjusting their shooting. And the kid's great. I get it. And their defense is very good, without question. But Syracuse had quality shots, just couldn't finish.
Yeah, and then as we got Kyle Fetterly with us here talking some lax. Houston Harvard tomorrow, 1 o'clock in the Dome, pregame 12:30 over on TK. That, the Joey Spallina questions are always so interesting, right? Because he's clearly one of the best players in the country. He's got unbelievable talent, but he's not a blow past you dodger. He's not your typical, right, like 1A kind of player that we've seen in recent years. How does that style affect how you play in these close games? And I guess who else can fit into that role when you just need somebody to go beat their guy to get a goal late in a close game?
Well, I think the Dodger up there, Joey can dodge without question like that. He's a very crafty player. He's very good at – sneaky is a better word. He's a terrific passer. His passing reminds me of the late great John Zalberti. He puts it right where you can handle it as a player when you're cutting. Mm-hmm. He's that good, and he's crafty when he scores goals. And he's got enough power to blow it by a goalie, without question. But I think Finn Thompson's the real dodger at attack out there. Owen Hiltz has dropped some pounds. He's moving really quick, and he's a terrific shooter. Nobody was a terrific shooter last week, but he is a terrific shooter. That's just a one-off game. But, the bottom line is Syracuse is going to have to continue to run. I don't see it being a big deal losing last week. Nobody likes to lose, of course. But I don't see it as being a big deal. I think we ran into a real good team. We got real good teams left to go. I remember Kevin Donahue, longtime assistant coach, saying, I used to say, "What do you think today, Kevin?" He goes, "I just want to have a good shooting day. That's all." That's all I'm asking for is a good shooting day. And we had a poor shooting day, and they won.
Yeah, and realistically, how many times have we seen that decide games in the playoffs at the end of the season? Like, when push comes to shove, you got to put the ball in the net in the games that matter. And we know the schedule. Notre Dame's on it, Duke's on it, Carolina's on it, Virginia's on it, Cornell's on it, Hopkins is on it. They aren't going to deal with all these teams in due time this regular season. Push comes to shove, though. Besides, literally having a good shooting day or not, when you look at this team, knowing what you know about what you need to see for a title team, what's your biggest concern? What's the biggest area of growth you think this team needs to show between now and when we get to those games later on?
I think it's just, honestly, the only adjustment, the only growth is going to be lacrosse IQ, the adjustments, because the talent's there, the speed is there, the physicality's there. We've got a tremendous goalie. We got a tremendous face-off man. Our attack is as good as anybody's in the country, and we are real deep at midfield. Our short stick D middies and long poles have come to play. They're running a rotation out there where they got fresh legs on the field all the time on that defensive end. I like defensive coordinator John O'Durn's junkyard dog defense out there. And a lot of people question that. I kind of like it because two reasons. You're pulling the starters off the field on defense, and they can watch, have a drink of water, get a quick rest, and you putting fresh legs on the field. And it worked last year, and so far it's worked this year. So, yeah. I think Syracuse definitely has championship pedigree, too. That's one thing that they have. We've been down here. You're reminded of it every day when you walk around this building and you walk around in the JMA wireless dome. You see all the banners hanging on the wall. So they got the pedigree to do all this stuff, but they're going to have to learn how to adjust to different teams. Now, it's easy to adjust week to week, but they're going to have to learn to adjust during the game, and that's the biggest adjustment that they're going to have to make, or the biggest thing that they're going to have to learn. Outside of that, they've got the ingredients to make it to championship weekend, and when you make it to championship weekend now, you do need a little lady luck because all those teams are going to be good to get there, but they're good enough to win the national championship, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think there's any team out there this year, Kyle, that's like Notre Dame was the last couple of years, where they didn't need luck come down the stretch last year. They were just blowing the doors off people. I don't know if that team exists this year.
Yeah, the last 2 years, everybody was playing for second place, and that was the truth.
Yeah, I mean, when they win the title game by 10 or something last year was just ridiculous what they were able to do, and they're still number one in the country this year, but a lot of changes from last year. You mentioned the Junkyard Dogs, which is what they use for their man-down defense. I'm looking at the starting defense here this year when you look at Dwan out there, when you look at the new guy in there, Michael Grace. Like, I really like this group of defenders, close defenders. It feels like you've got like some really good options out there of what you can do against various types of attackmen on other teams.
Absolutely. Michael Grace has been a great addition. I mean, he's great picking up the ball off the ground. He can take it away from you. He's 6'6" and 210 pounds and can run. Mm-hmm. I mean, and he's fast and he's quick too. And then you got Riley Figueres, who basically makes no mistakes. I mean, he stays in front of his man. He's not flashy. He just works their hands all the time. And it's like whoever he's guarding doesn't want the ball. And if you notice, he's usually the guy drawing the number one player. Mm-hmm. And then Billy Dwan is a freak of nature. I'll just tell you right now, 6'5", can run like any midi that we've got out there. As a lockdown defender, very physical, not afraid to beef it up with you if he has to. And the other thing is, he can score goals. They put him on the wing for a reason on the faceoff. And believe me, those kids have no problem. If Johnny Mullen pops the faceoff out, they have no problem feeding it to Dwan because Dwan can shoot with that 6-foot pole. I mean, 9 goals last year says it all. Yeah, we had him on yesterday, Kyle. He hasn't scored yet this year. It's clearly bothering him. So I'm feeling solid about a Dwan goal tomorrow. I think he wants to get that monkey off his back to start this year. Well, he's had 3 or 4 shots already, so believe me, he'll get it. It'll come. I'm not worried about it.
All right, what do you make of this Harvard game tomorrow? It's not a game that has happened very often in recent Syracuse history. They're solid, right? They're 15th in the country. They're not, Hopkins or Cornell or the ACC, but like this is a potentially tricky kind of game tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you something, Brian. Quite honestly, this is one of the better attack lines we'll see this year, with the exception of probably North Carolina and maybe Notre Dame. I don't know who Notre Dame has yet as the third guy. I haven't really looked at him, but this is one of the top. Sam King is like Joey Spallina. He's a Gilman private school kid out of Baltimore, big time recruit. 3 goals, 10 assists already. Jack Spidell and Teddy Malone. This is a top-notch attack unit, and they've got 2 snipers on the outside from Miles Bodkins and Owen Gaffney. So, I mean, this is an offensive team. I mean, they lost to Colgate, and Colgate's got a good club, which Syracuse is going to see them later. But they lost to Colgate 19-15. But the bottom line is they still buried 15 goals on Colgate. So this is a team that can score goals. I think they're right now. It's hard to say what they've got on defense, but they got a freshman in the cage in Graham Stevens, but he was a 5-star kid out of New Jersey, so he's a but now you're coming into the Dome and things change. I always say this, and I say this on the air: the Sistine Chapel of College Lacrosse. There is no other venue in the country for lacrosse like the JMA Wireless Dome. When you get the music going, the big scoreboards, the ribbon boards, the number one fan base in the country, without question, we lead the nation in attendance every year in both the men and the women. And the fans know their lacrosse at this stadium, and they show up in droves, and they're not afraid to let you hear about it. So tough. The Dome's a tough place to play for anybody. without question. But this is a very good Harvard team. Probably the best Harvard team I've seen since 2019. I would go that far. They were really good in 19. They started off 6-0. But this is a really, really good team.
Yeah. The Ivy League, as always, is generally loaded, and Syracuse will have to deal with potentially its best in Cornell at about, when is that, about a month from now, give or take. All right, Kyle, always good to chat. We'll be listening tomorrow, and we'll certainly do this as the season goes on.
Absolutely. Good to hear from you.
All right, our guy Kyle Fetterly, again, tomorrow, 1 o'clock, Syracuse and Harvard, pregame TK99 at 12:30. Make sure to catch that, as always, with Cuse MLAX. With that, we'll take a break. We'll get Jordan in, a little 411 when we come back after this here on Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. Yotica.